Hiya, Dan.
How's it going?
All right. It's great to catch up. We've been planning this now, I think, for about 5 years, and then COVID kicked in, and we finally made it. And here I am in Milton Keynes, Formula One,
Yep.
Red Bull. All right. So give us a little bit of background. I know you're an Englishman, but how did you end up coming to TSS? Tell us a little bit of that story.
Yeah, TSS was kind of a bit of a fluke, really. I used to swim for Great Britain when I was younger. I was invited to a seminar about swimming, hosted by Bill Sweetenham, who's an Aussie Gold Coast guy, and he wanted to set up an offshore centre. TSS, I think a number of the GPS schools bid for it, and TSS won the bid, thankfully. I basically was one of the lucky 3 initially that come out in 2002 to come and swim for TSS and bring GPS back to the Gold Coast.
I do remember, I don't know what year that was, but I do remember that meeting in a little hotel and meeting your mum and dad.
Yep.
And I think they probably were pleased. And then when the reality kicked in that you were now going to Australia, I think he didn't even come home for Christmas.
No,
it was
we
a
stayed
fair
out.
commitment.
Yeah, we stayed out for quite a long time, and we were back basically for competitions, and that was it. Because obviously with the swimming side and with the schooling, nothing really added up or made sense coming back so often. So, yeah, it was a big commitment. Made some lifelong friends out there who I'm still obviously in touch with today. And yeah, it was an incredible experience, and one I'd obviously repeat, or would love for my kids to repeat as well.
So one thing for boys watching this now, when you left TSS, you're obviously a talented swimmer and earmarked to go right through. What happened after that? Was it straightforward national swimming? Was it a straightforward career, or get on well with coaches? What happened?
No, so I stopped swimming during my time at TSS. I think I had 1 term left to go, so I just came home, didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life, and bumped into a friend who I'm forever thankful for, actually, and for the day that I bumped into him, because I went down the local rowing club and picked up an oar. And although obviously TSS has a rowing side, I wasn't able to do any other sports at TSS other than swim. So I picked up an oar, and within 6 months I was in my first national team for Great Britain as under 23, and then within 2 years I'd won my first international medal as a senior. So yeah, I was really, really lucky. But yeah, other sports, but it's been a crazy ride from swimming to rowing to now this.
Formula One. So you told me once that you coach in swimming as a young, so it's a message to coaches that you remember things that coaches say when you're at school, and your coach said something, whether it was being motivational or whether it was a tune-up, your coach said something and you carried that into your second sport of rowing. What was that?
Yeah, so I remember when I was sat in the coach's office just at the end of the 50-metre pool, in between the 50 and the 25 pool. I'm assuming the office is still there, the coach's office. I was sat in there, and he told me I would never be a world champion. And yeah, so obviously that hurts a little bit at the time when you're a young cocky kid, and you think that's what you're going to be doing. So yeah, when I went into rowing, it was very much that was my intention. And if you get a chance to read a book by Greg Searle, who I rowed with in 2010 and 2011, up to the 2012 Olympics. There's a reference in there to that the night before we won our first silver medal as a team, where I basically told the group, that's what happened. That's why I was here to row. That I wanted to prove him wrong. And then when I won in 2013, I finished. I'd proved everything to myself, and more importantly, I'd proven him wrong.
Yeah.
How much have you enjoyed that medal ceremony? That sweet gold medal there.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Pure elation. Thank you.
From Stan, I'll just congratulate you there.
Yeah, it's just great. There's a lot of things that happened this year, and just so happy that I could finish it off in the way I wanted to for, memory of certain people, and it's great, just fantastic.
Was it an easy transition from swimming to rowing?
Yeah, I think understanding water made a lot of sense. So like what you did with your hands, I could feel what the blade or the end of the spoon was doing in my hand in the boat. I think also the physiology is so much more like you're so aerobically driven as a swimmer that when you get into rowing, it was just I needed to develop the power. But once I had the power, I was away. I'm quite lucky. I've got the big frame as well. Being 6'5", I can pull it off. Well, I was a lot lighter when I rowed. I was about 86 kilos, about 117 now. So probably be better at the back end of a pack.
So, but I suppose rowing, you had a team element or someone where swimming's an individual, even though you might be swimming for Great Britain or Australia. So was that an added bonus that you were training with someone, or did you find you were better off on your own in a boat?
No, I mean, the boat it's a really complex and interesting dynamic in a boat, because you're pulling your own weight off from your own spoon. So it's individual in that respect. And like, you have your 12.5% and an 8, and that's your section. But you have to work with everyone else, and it has to be like you're working singularly, but for the greater good. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, really, because I'm a real team player. I would rather have a good experience as a team than a bad experience as an individual. So rowing was great for that, because it kind of ticked my own, ruined myself, but also work as part of a bigger team.
So often lads at school pick up an injury, and it's quite difficult. It might be their first injury, first time they were dropped. Have you ever been dropped? Have you ever had injuries? Have you ever had to come and fight back into a team?
Yeah, so 2010, I ruptured my left Achilles. Managed to get back into the team in time to win a silver medal at that World Championships. 2011, I ruptured my right hamstring. I had to have that sewn back on, and got back for another silver medal in 2011. And then in 2012, I ruptured my right Achilles, which unfortunately it happened on my birthday, so 6th of January. I didn't have enough time. I missed out on the boat by I think it was 0.6 of a second to go to the Olympics, home Olympics at London, but then got back for 2013 and won in 2013, and then retired soon after.
In lane 3, Great Britain, gold medalists at Eton and Sydney. Slightly different combination here. 50 metres to go, and it's almost only a canvas. This could come down to the surge across the line there, stroke for stroke. Here comes the finishing line. I think GB are just about going to hold it. Only a canvas, and GB take the gold medal. New world champions in 2013 for the men's 8.
Pretty difficult to get over.
It's horrendous. Coming back from injury is the hardest thing you'll ever do. You lose your fitness. You lose your. I mean, sport's such a mental thing that you want to constantly think you're the best, but the reality is when you're injured, you're losing like form, you're losing like passion, like everything that starts doing that, and you've got to build all that back up again. It's the hardest thing to come back from.
So coaching, we got I think we probably got over 50 old boys coaching at TSS. You probably remember some of the good things that were said by coaches or fellow athletes. Is there anything that stands out over time that you remember that was a good tip?
Yeah, I remember going down to the boat sheds, and over the top. I'm not sure if it's still there, because I know it's been renovated, but it was pain is temporary, pride is forever. It's something that's never really left my psyche, shall we say? So
when we came over for the Rugby World Cup, I think I gave you a call the day before, and I said, look, we'd like to go down and go to Henley and have a look around the club, Leander, and you kindly dropped everything and you arrived. That was probably one of the most impressive trophy rooms I've ever seen. That was your club, so that was it's not got the best facilities, but you're surrounded by history of rowing at that club. So
there's a pedigree of winning as well, and it's an expectation. There's big shoes to fill from a rowing side in Great Britain, right? They said we're an island nation, but similarly obviously to Australia, but we're there. Our pedigree in rowing is one of the best out there. Between us, New Zealand and Australia, it's some of the best rowing nations in the world. So there is an expectation to win. Leander has over 130 Olympic medals. So if you're competing for Leander, the expectation is you're going to either win Henley, win a World Championship, or win an Olympics. So you haven't really got much of a choice.
No, fair enough. And I know that we've got a rowing program and a group that would like to come across to Henley. So give us a little bit of insight of you rowing at Henley and how it's so different to anything else.
Henley is the closest place that you will ever come to rowing in a full stadium. I've started the most memorable race I had at Henley was at the start line, rowing against Australia in 2011, I believe it was. Yeah, 2011. the coxswain had to bang the side of the boat so we could hear his calls or know what the calls were at stroke 7, at stroke 10. Fortunately, we were quite silent. We never spoke for the first 7 strokes anyway, but it was so loud at the front. You are 6 metres, if that, away from spectators, and obviously everyone likes the grudge match. The Ashes were on at the same time, so it's a real grudge match between the two nations as well. So it's an incredible experience, and you go from that noise into the middle of the course where it's a bit more silent but still noisy, but then to then come back into the grandstand enclosures. You make one mistake, the coxswain makes a mistake, you hit the booms, it's game over. It's a gladiatorial fight, which is, it's great, but also incredibly passionate at the same time, and very, very risky.
Yeah, all right. So I suppose that leads into the next question. What was your most memorable race event? Is it currently with the Formula One last year, or was it when you were competing yourself?
That's an easy one for me. Silver medal, Lake Carapiro in New Zealand, 2010, winning my first silver medal for Great Britain. The boat was an incredible boat. We just missed out. You can still watch it on YouTube if you want to. I had a terrible start. I actually lost us about half a length to begin with, and then we rode back through the entire field, apart from the Germans, and we had a sprint finish and lost to them by 0.6 of a second. But it was around the journey. It wasn't the result. Obviously, we've won gold medals. I compete here. It was the journey as part of that team. So the end result was great, but wasn't what we wanted. But that journey was what mattered to me. Awesome.
Schoolmates? Do you still keep in touch with any of your schoolmates?
Yeah, quite a few. So Dan Quinlivan is probably my closest mate, and I don't know if any of you guys know the Quinlivans, but yeah, I still keep in touch with a few, class 2004. So.
Social media, look, Netflix and social media, you're in this business now and your job is sponsorship, huge numbers. So you obviously read stuff, but it plays an important part in the job that you're in at the moment. So, what's your views on that? Because when things aren't going well, there's negative pressures coming through social media or breakdowns or whatever. So how do you view that in your current job?
I've a love affair, a love-hate relationship with social media. From my side, social media is great because I can talk around what we do as a team and in fan engagement side. When it comes down to the personal side, if you look at someone like Max Verstappen, I think the way he looks at it is incredible, is genuinely incredible. In the fact he's just like, oh well, it's there, it does what it does. People look after it for me, but he doesn't read it, he doesn't look at it. It's not relevant for him. And I think for any of you spending too much time on social media, you've got to be aware it's fake. It's not a real world. It's not real life. It's trying to portray your best self. Just enjoy it while you enjoy it, but always be slightly cautious.
Okay. I got one here. Your parents, obviously you left home, so your parents were supportive of the move. Just for parents watching this, were they actively pushing you, or did they see yourself as being independent and they're driving you, or are they just good supporters? How did they play around with your?
Well, my dad before I went to Australia. My dad was my swimming coach. So he really pushed the swimming side. They were very supportive. You got to be supportive to send your kid 14,000 miles away to the other side of the world. No, I was very lucky with my parents that they supported me through swimming, and then they came back. When obviously coming back and helping me to transition into rowing, they bought me a boat first time round. So I couldn't be where I am today without them. But similarly, it got to the stage towards the end of my career, my dad was telling me to go get a job. So there's always a timeline for the support you get from your parents.
And I've been interviewing people that are currently playing professional sport. So after their career, they would have skills that they can take into a future job. What would you say those are in your case?
Probably my skills are determined. Probably my biggest skills are also my biggest flaws in the world of business. I'm stubborn. I'm versatile. I'm ambitious. I'm determined. All these things are great and they help you get to places, but they also hit you quite hard at the same time. So there's a need to, probably I would say, is taking people on a journey is the most important part of what I've learned. Is you need to have people come along with you rather than just forging your own path.
Red Bull's highly competitive. You've got a boss that's famous, on camera. how does that, you know, what are the pressures in this job that you carry on, and what are some of the things that you bring to the table?
Yeah, it's 24/7 here. So I can get a call 9 p.m. at night, and I've got to be off somewhere in the next couple of hours. So you know, it doesn't stop here, and it's similar to my time as an athlete. You're always on. Right? You're always looking for the next level, the next step, the next. So that was an easy transition for me here, but I think if you're going to be the best in the world at anything, you have to be prepared to sell a part of your soul to achieve that. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you've got to be phenomenally talented.
Okay. What do you think that stands Red Bull? You know, we've got 14 sports at TSS, all striving to be the best. A lot of the schools that we compete against are bigger than us. You know, what stands, you know, Red Bull apart from the others? How would you say that you remain competitive in the 1-2 all the time?
I think what we do really good at is we excel in VUCA environments, so volatile, uncertain, and ambiguous environments. Like we thrive in that, and that's where I think where Red Bull is so different is the fact we put everything into place that we know, and we think about all the different alternatives and all the different variations that can happen over a race weekend. And similarly, that's what I did in sport as well. You think of all the different outcomes, and once you've got those outcomes in your head and you visualise that, nothing comes as a surprise. And when nothing's a surprise, you can execute your plan perfectly.
Okay, I've got 2 more questions. That's it then. Have you got a funny story or an amusing story that's happened to you along the way that's been part of your rowing, swimming, or Formula One?
Yeah, I think the most amusing one I'd say is was rowing at a World Cup, and we had to launch the boat. And there's always a bit cocky when you first, at that age. So I'd taken the boat down. And for those of you who know what rowing is, we're out in a scull. I dropped the boat down on the pontoon, went to speak, and one of the umpires came up and was like, "You haven't got time here. You got this. We're about to close the lake." And I was like, "I'll be fine. I'll get there. Just go to a few starts, come back. Absolutely fine. Just leave me to it." Anyway, probably about a 10-minute argument ensued between me and this French umpire, and eventually I was like just telling him I'm doing it as I'm getting off. Anyway, in this time I've forgotten to tighten my outside gate, so I stand up, and you guys will know, you put your foot in and you push off. As I push off, the oar comes up and I just fall straight in. Falling in, the boat's over, I'm underwater thinking, I look like a complete tit. So I then my head pops up, get the boat, grab the oar, swim to the next bank, to the other landing stage, pick the boat up, put it on my shoulder with my oars, walking off with the boat, and the umpire walked up to me and I said, "I told you only be a few minutes." And didn't say anything else other than that.
All right, my last question I normally ask, if you've got some young lads watching this, if you had a little bit of advice to someone starting out in sport, I think you won 2 GPS swim championships, all right. What would that advice be?
I would say that life's hard. It's going to knock you back. You're going to keep knocked back. It's about how you get back up again. And it's what my brother taught me. Obviously, unfortunately, my brother passed away in 2012. But he said 3 words: keep moving forward.
Thank you very much, Dan. I've really enjoyed it. What a great day.
Thank you.